Hey Ben, welcome to the show.
G'day, George. What a great intro. I'm standing up, but I've still got my beverage of choice.
Fantastic, that's awesome. Well, I'm currently in Bali. I was going to just show you my view while I was here.
Beautiful. Hey, that's great. Living the life.
Absolutely. So I've been here for a week, checking out what's been going on and getting things organised, and it's been great. And I really look forward to our little conversation tonight. And I'm sure a lot
Mm.
of people are looking forward to, you know, what we're going to talk about. So, just Ben, tell us a little bit of background, about what you do and everything else like that.
Yeah, certainly. Thanks. So, been back in Australia 10 years. That's just a short part of it. I met my wife who's Swedish in Melbourne, went over to Sweden for about 10 years, did a significant amount of property flipping, renovations, that sort of stuff over there. Also held down about 5 jobs at the same time. So one of your previous podcasts there talking about hustle and the mindset of getting out there and doing stuff was definitely doing that, even working night shift and night jobs. So that was over there working as a personal trainer. Yeah, ran a few businesses. Came back here. Didn't have my PT quals anymore, so I got into the mental game, the working with Brian Tracy, and getting into sort of business coaching, executive coaching, those sort of things. Thought I'd join the army at 40. That's kept me sharp, and I've learned a lot from being in there as well. It's such a great organisation, and yeah, I'm sure there's going to be some takeaways that I have that I can pass on as well today.
Fantastic. So, from what I've heard, the Australian armed forces are one of the best in the world. Is that correct?
It's certainly one of the best trained small armies in the world. And I should probably just put in a bit of a disclaimer right here that I am not representing the army in any way. So the thoughts and opinions here are my own. But what I am doing is taking some open source information that anyone can probably find Googling, but I'm distilling it down into a civilian perspective, a business perspective, a personal perspective, so we can get those takeaways and action them. So that's probably just one part I do want to get across, so people just don't think that I'm here representing the army or spruiking the army. But certainly, we are one of the best uh, trained small armies in the world, and such a focus on high performance. Even if you look at the US militaries, look at the militaries around the world, there's such a focus on continual development, always training their guys to the best, not just physical training, the mental training, the planning, how to respond to adversity, how to respond to challenge and stress and those sort of things. And it's been very well publicized. As I said, you're able to find it there on Google, but there's so much information out there. How do we get it down to something that any civilian, anyone can actually use and implement?
Okay, great. So, what I want to do is dive into some of the habits that can help us become better at investing, at life, our relationships, everything else. But quickly, before we do that, if you're watching live, please type in hashtag live just so I know you're watching. Please join the conversation in the chat because we're going to be doing a Q&A afterwards. So join that. And for the people watching the replay, I know a lot of you do, type in hashtag replay. We'll come back and watch who's watching. I'm watching you, watching me, watching you. It's great. Okay, Ben. So let's start with the best. Let's start with the habits. What's the number one habit that you can get to move yourself towards, take more control over your life?
Yeah, I think a really big part of that is more than just one habit. It's a routine. It's what can we do in the morning to set up our day. One thing that you will see from militaries is yes, they do rise early. There's certain tactical reasons for that, but even when you're in the barracks environment or anything like that, you're up early. You're up early to go to PT, personal physical training. You're up early to get straight out there, hit the gym, do your run, any of those sort of things. Such an important part of the day is to start the day right. So if your habit might not be to do an hour in the gym or something like that, is getting up and getting active.
Absolutely. And I read a book called The Miracle Morning, which is really amazing. And it talks about, you got, people like David Goggins who say, make your bed if you want to be successful and things like that,
Mm.
because you've got one thing that you've made in the whole day. And I've sort of, now that I've moved to Bali, I've decided to do a sort of a little ritual where, I wake up, I do meditation, then I have coffee, then I have a workout, then I do breakfast, and then I do journaling,
Yep.
and finally I'm ready for the day. And I like having my morning set out,
Mm.
because that way you know what you're doing and it's nice and simple. And I find what I love about habits, creating any good habits, is they make your life easy because there's less choices to make. You don't have to think. You're like, okay, this is what I have to do next. You know what I mean? It's great.
Yeah, it's like success on autopilot. You know that you're doing these things consistently. It's moving you towards that, and then over time, maybe 3 months time, maybe 1 month time, maybe 5 years time, you look back and go, "Wow, look at all the stuff that I've done there just by having my morning routine sorted and just incrementally moving forward." It's another thing that we talk about getting up and you've got your ritual and bouncing there out of bed or something like that, something that you look forward to. But let's also remember that people talk about militaries and they're so disciplined there. They're up at 5 a.m., up at 5:30 a.m. or something like that. I can tell you that, yeah, it certainly helps to have something you want to get up for. It certainly helps having very strong guidelines that you must be up by that particular point of time. But as you know, not everyone bounces out of bed at that time in the morning. It's about setting that routine, those expectations, and those habits in place. And then over time, your circadian rhythms will change. You'll get used to going to bed early, to wake up earlier, getting a great start for the day.
Absolutely. I find Queensland or Bali is a lot easier to go to bed early and wake up early because of the differences of the sun.
Yep.
But it's a bit harder in the southern states because, we've got the sun till 9 or 10 o'clock at night in summer,
Yeah.
and you feel like staying awake.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the thing is, what a lot of people don't realize, and this is true of your fitness life, your personal life, but also your investment life, is saving money for 1 week. It's not going to help you become rich, and having a two good meals or one big workout is not going to make any difference.
Mm.
What it is what you do consistently that matters.
Yeah.
It's the consistency, as you said.
Yeah, absolutely. And
So how do we create consistency? How do we create habits? What do we do?
yeah, so a really big part of the habits is actually going back or going up to the 30,000 foot level, looking at, well, what is it that we want to achieve? It's about that actual goal, that path, that destination where we're looking to get to, and then breaking it down into what steps are required from there. Uh, there's a bit of story I can sometimes talk about. Is that I speak to people and they've got, yeah, I've got goals, I've got goals, I've got, I want to make $200,000. I want to do this, and say, okay, well, what plan have you got in place? What have you put in place to get there? Oh, I haven't got anything. I've got a goal to get $200,000. That is not a goal. That is a dream. A goal is when you actually start to put things in place, when you actually start to think strategically about how are we going to get there. A goal, and then you're breaking it down into the milestones. So, say for example, a lot of the clients that I work with, we have our 5-year goal, but our yearly goal, and then we break it down in our quarters. There's more to that. Then we're breaking down what are the monthly milestones that we need to achieve our quarterly goal. Or if you've got a yearly goal, what do we need to do quarterly to achieve our yearly goal? And then breaking it down from there, we need to think about what are the consistent actions that I need to do that are going to move the dial the most. It's not just about what are these big tasks that I need to do. It's what are these consistent actions that I can do to meet that goal. So, one thing most people want to talk about is weight loss goals. Let's work out where we need to get. But let's also work out, first of all, where are we currently? Where's that gap from where we currently are to where we need to go, and break that down into these milestones. It will be really tough to think, oh, I'm going to lose 10 kilos. And that is an absolute massive uphill climb for you. But if we can break that down into, in 1 month, I'm going to lose 1 kilo. How am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to work on getting my 10,000 steps a day, and I'm going to actually start recording my calories and reduce my calories, or I'm going to implement some more healthy lifestyle choices or something like that. They're the habits that we need to do in order to reach that goal. So it's just that goal and breaking it down. From a financial perspective, like you just said there, about putting aside the $100 a week, we got to know why we're doing that. We got to know why we're doing those $100 a week. What is that goal? What is that thing that's driving us to get there? What's our why? Why do we want to get that? And really feel it and know that we've got that inside our identity and everything that we're aiming towards, but breaking it down into those sizable chunks.
Beautiful, and I love the way you explain that, because I remember when The Secret came out, and everyone was watching The Secret.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, okay, I'm manifesting. I want to be a billionaire. And then they did nothing about it.
Yeah.
And the problem with The Secret was, look, goal setting is so important. It's one of the fundamentals. However, like my mentor, Anthony Robbins says, massive goals without massive action are nothing. they're not even real. So you need the
Yeah.
massive action.
Yeah.
What I want to do is just quickly, we've got a few people commenting. I just wanted to read out some comments. We've got Geraldine from Melbourne. Hey there, George. I'm from Melbourne. Love your videos and your positive vibes. Love it. Thank you.
Cool.
Then we've got Christos. There's Ben Kirk. Love your work, buddy. And then I've got another person on Facebook saying, grew up in Ireland, no light till 8:30 a.m., and I still can't adjust to life before 7 a.m. here. My toddler makes the goal of early mornings achievable. The dream still remains a lie in.
I can
There you go.
certainly identify with that, living in Sweden for 10 years. I mean, sun didn't come up till 10 a.m., sun went down at 4 p.m., and you're working through darkness most of the time. That is definitely challenging. One thing, well, hey, you've got some building accountability there. You've got your toddler getting you up early. I certainly had that. I also had some built-in accountability. Was I made sure I was meeting a gym buddy at 5 a.m. at the local gym. It didn't matter how much snow I had over my car. I was meeting him there at 5 a.m. And I tell you what, he had to brush snow off his car as well. I'm not going to stand him up because hey, that'd be a pretty bad move, right? So having that accountability sort of built in is really important. Like I said before, not everyone or very few people bounce out of bed at that time in the morning. It's tough. Have those accountability systems in place, and there's heaps of other little hacks and tricks and stuff like that you can do. Get your sleep monitors, get it to wake you up when you're in a high part of your sleep, not in your deep sleep. There's all that sort of stuff, and that's things you can go into at another time. There are experts out there on that, but food for thought, right?
Absolutely. So, how do you help people? What do you find are most people's challenges? Let's take this back to investing, because I
Mm-hmm.
find with investing,
Mm-hmm.
most people in Australia that earn a good income, have got a mortgage, they can afford to invest,
Yep.
right? But what I find, the one thing that people don't have is the belief or mindset, and they think, "Oh my God, it's so scary."
Mm-hmm.
How can what you learned in the army help people overcome that? Because I'd imagine in the army you go through scary situations too.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And there's one thing that you do really well, George, in this is clarity. Most people that I'm working with, whether it's in the business sense, working with entrepreneurs or anything like that, they lack this sort of form of clarity about what the actual next step is. There is so much information out there. There's so much information. There's one person telling you to zig. There's another person telling you to zag. It's like, what information do we follow? It's this part of clarity as to where we want to go, what those milestones are again, and what the steps are to get there. What you do, George, is absolutely fantastic with that. Is you're giving people a very definitive answer to what they need to do. There's that clarity piece. That's the biggest thing that people have towards procrastination, towards getting started, towards feeling ready. Any of those sort of things is that clarity piece. And built into what's called the sort of military appreciation process is stepping through all these parts of clarity. When we've got something that we want to be able to do, it's all these checks and balances and that are built into the systems there that we need to do in order to get clarity. And it's step by step. It's what's coming up first. It's mind mapping it through. It's putting a little map on the ground. There's all these sort of things to get absolutely clarity, because you cannot perform as a team in those high pressure environments if you don't have absolute clarity on what that objective is that you need to go to, and also what are those checkpoints along the way. Who do we need to RV with, rendezvous with? Who do we need to see on here? What should we be looking for along the way? What are some decision points that we need to trigger or see in order to make our decision on that very next step?
Absolutely. See, what a lot of people don't realise, and I think this is the case with military force, the most important part is logistics and communication
Yep.
and coordination.
Yep.
And if you don't have those three things, it doesn't matter how powerful your army is. And we've seen a bit of that, what's happening in, with the Russia-Ukraine conflict at the moment, and how, Russia hasn't got the coordination and they're not really working together. Any comments on that?
Yeah, look, they certainly had some challenges there, and yeah, that sort of back end strategy part of knowing that you've got the support system there. I mean, we can see directly how important that is in our civilian lives, and how important that is in business as well. Is having those support elements, which we can look to be our support circle, or our mentors, or those courses that we're doing, or anything along those lines as well. Another thing that's really important though when we're doing our planning is let's look at the obstacles. You see, when I started doing the business coaching and executive coaching, we say life coaching or high performance coaching or anything like that, people are always talking about this is what I want to do, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to go out there and smash. I've got all these things in there, and there's always these parts of when we're planning through our goals, and people are just looking on the positive side. And yeah, positive's great. Positive productivity, positive property, right? It's really important, but let's look at those obstacles that might be coming up. We've got to look at this and say, well, why haven't I achieved this already? Why haven't I got to this goal already? They're the obstacles you keep on coming up against. Sometimes those obstacles and overcoming them needs to become your new goal. And so I like to look at those obstacles. It could be, well, what's the enemy going to do, or what are these spot fires that keep coming up? All those little sorts of things. So when we're building out our goals, let's be realistic about what our obstacles are. What are the things that have prevented us at this stage of achieving our objective? And let's tackle those head on. Let's just get a plan in place. If this is to occur, then I'm gonna do this. Really important stuff. It's something that we have there in our planning process called actions on. If this occurs, we're going to do that. It becomes automated. It becomes rehearsed. It's practiced. Same sort of thing. If you know you always procrastinate when you when you pull up your browser and YouTube pops up, well, we've got to block it. We've got to stop doing that sort of stuff. It's about identifying what are our constant obstacles and working out ways to prevent it and stop it so we can be focused and achieve what we need to achieve. And it might be the same thing when you're putting $100 a week for your investing. What are our obstacles? Oh, I just can't help every time I go past Hungry Jack's. I just feel like I need to have that burger. Well, there goes what, 15, 18 bucks? That's an obstacle that you got to
There's an
deal with. Let's not
obstacle.
even talk
There's an
about the health
obstacle
stuff,
to your
right?
fitness goals and health goals too. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
not the money. Yeah. So
Be
yep.
realistic.
But people listening, if you've been scrolling and listening to us, stay on. Don't go back to your work. What I want to do is just make an announcement. One thing I'm doing next week, and I haven't done this for a while, is I'm actually opening up our program for free to everyone.
Wow.
So what we're doing is we're going to be doing a 5-day test drive where people can come and join our program and come and join me and my team each night. What we're going to do is it's a bit like Mission Impossible. Our goal is going to help you create $1 million game plan to invest in property. And each night you come along for half an hour to 45 minutes. We give you a mission. You go do your homework and come back. Then we see your homework and we help you through the whole 5 days. And I'm doing it absolutely free. If you want to join, type in hashtag 5 days and my team will reach out and give you the link. We've only got limited numbers. We're limiting to 100 because otherwise, if there's more than 100, Zoom slows down. So we just need to do it. So there you go. Alex says self-discipline. Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I mean, this was one other thing going into the habits there. It's not really a habit, it's a principle, but this I think ties into the course and also what you're doing, George, is this idea of mentorship and coaching. And in the military, you'll find you've got two types of ranks. You've got the commission officers, and then you've got the non-commissioned officers. And generally, the commission officers come in. They might be a lieutenant. That's the sort of like 4 years after your graduation, right? A lot of young guys coming into that. You've got the captains. They might be there for 7 or 8 years, but they're still quite new in the military. They get paired up with someone that's been in the military, a sergeant or a warrant officer that's been in for 20 years plus. So you've got all these new guys, they've got these goals, got this strategy, but they're paired with someone who's been around for a period of time to give them that sort of mentorship. And then, of course, we have coaching coming from our own superior officers to coach us on how we can be better in our leadership or things like that. But that's an important part of looking at someone who's done much of this stuff before, who's got that experience, and we get paired up there. It's not necessarily a habit, but that's a very strong principle that you'll see through militaries throughout the world, is pairing a young lieutenant or a young captain with an experienced sergeant or warrant officer.
I love it. That's great. That's great. So we're going to go to our private group in about 3 minutes.
Yep.
So before we do that, can you tell me about who do you help? How do you help them? That's what I wanted to find out.
Yeah, so thanks, George. Website is wintheday.com.au. If you put a / in there and you put a PP for a positive property, then there's actually a special page for people to learn a little bit more about me. I work with primarily it's entrepreneurs. I do have a lot of CEOs, managing directors on my books as well, and we talk. We work on implementing their actual goals, the milestones, the habits. I am a bit of a habit geek, but really implementing what they want to do. We have a call every single week, and I'll ask them, hey, did you do those three main things that you said you're going to do last week? Yes, no. If they didn't, then they get the direct conversation. Well, why didn't you do it? What were the obstacles? What came up? How are we going to beat that again next time? What are we going to put in place so we beat that? And that's a weekly call with me. There's the accountability side of it, and I've got a tracking system that can show. And when they start with me to when they're sort of 3 months in or after that, what their growth has been, what their productivity been, what their energy's been, all that sort of stuff. So that's sort of built into one, I guess, accountability, productivity coaching package.
Ben, I love the way you actually measure what happens, because there's so many people that say we do this for you, and then after 3 months you don't know what you've achieved.
Yeah.
And having a look at it visually is so good.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Thanks. This is almost $100 billion
Is there any special
industry,
deals?
and people are just meet with their coaches and have a little bit of a chat, a little bit of waffle fluffle or something like that. I am not like that. My calls are 15 minutes. We get in there, we get straight down to business, we get those trackable items, and we measure them to make sure that my coaching's helping. If it's not helping people, there's no point having this relationship. Let's make sure that we track it so we can see what these movements are. And something that we'll probably talk about at another time is actually these incremental measurements, these wins, win the day, these wins that are stacking up. There's your motivation, there's your momentum, there's your discipline, all that sort of stuff built in. And that's built into this trackability system.
Yep. So have we got a special deal for the people listening, or?
Certainly, we've got an ebook. If they go to that link there, wintheday.com.au/pp, they can download my ebook. It is basically, it's a bit of a 5-day goal setting challenge. Book a call with me straight up there in 5 days' time, so they can actually have a call with me, and we'll put a roadmap together on your goals. It's a fantastic, super simple, really easy way to set goals. I don't want to blow this out of proportion, because most people don't set goals because they don't know how to, or it's too hard. This will make it easy. 5 days, book a call with me, completely free, non-salesy. I'm just here I really want to help your clan, George.
Excellent. So look, guys, if my admin team can put the link in the chat, if you can just spell out your website for the people, the podcast listening.
Sorry, yeah. I was just looking at some of the comments there.
That's okay.
wintheday.com.au/PP for positive property.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Ben. I really appreciate it. It's been great. I hope everyone got value out of this. And I love bringing people that I like, respect, and know on this show, and sharing our wisdom to making the world a better place. You know, we're building a better world all together, which is great. I'll meet you in the private group for our private little chat, and see you there. Thanks. See you guys.
Thanks, George. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.